Hey everyone, Mike Lynch, and today we're going to do a video on 5 reasons why you should not be fasting. This is about the video we did last week on whether you should be fasting or not during quarantine, and a lot of people had a lot of comments and questions. So we're going to do 2 video series. We're going to do 5 reasons why people should be fasting and who should be fasting. But in this video, we're going to talk about 5 major reasons why you should not be fasting if you fall into these 5 categories. Okay everyone, we're going to talk about reason number 1, but before we get into that, like I said in the previous video that we did on fasting with quarantine, there is a time and a place and people that will do really, really well on fasting. And then on the other side of the coin is people that will do awful, actually make whatever situation they're dealing with actually worse. So with that being said, we're going to talk about 5 reasons, and reason number 1 is going to be somebody that has a stressful lifestyle and or job. Here's the reason why. The behavior or just by fasting and going long periods without food raises the stress levels in the body through adrenaline and norepinephrine, okay? Now this is gonna be a good thing for some people to help mobilize body fat, but you have to look at your body as an overall picture. And a lot of times in fitness or with nutrition, we end up fixing one problem, but we create 5 other ones in the process of fixing this one problem. And that's why there's so much confusion and people that just aren't really achieving optimal health because, they all just focus on one thing. Like with fasting, a lot of what's focused on is keeping the insulin levels low. And that, it does do that. It works wonderfully at that. But if you keep insulin levels too low, it could actually, for too long, that actually could cause other problems in the body that we'll discuss in another video. But we don't want to be overstressed. We already live in a very stressful environment, or at least a lot of us do. Long hours, heavy work obligations. Right now it's 2020 and we're going through the whole COVID-19 thing. And we talked about that in the other video with fasting and COVID-19. But, when this is all over, the whole coronavirus thing, a lot of us just have high stressful lives. And then adding, going 16, 18, 22 hours. I mean, I've seen people say now they fast for a couple of days. I mean, where does it ever end? But going long periods of time, especially for somebody that's not used to fasting, take somebody who's been maybe eating, X amount of meals, 4 or 5 meals a day, 6 meals a day for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Now all of a sudden they read some or hear some literature about the benefits of fasting. Now all of a sudden they change their eating cadence. It takes a long time for the body to adapt to that. And some people just never adapt because their body is better suited by having even eating cadences, okay? Or being in an even cadence. So that, going those long periods of time will cause a rise in adrenaline, and that will create more stress within the body. And a lot of people will talk about the mental acuity and the accuracy of fasting, and that's a flight or fight response. That's, think about if you're driving your car and somebody almost hits into your car or they hit your car, right away you're waking up. That's an adrenaline response. So when you're going all day without eating, and we talked about this in the last video, people will a lot of times drink energy drinks or too much caffeine. You're really stacking the cards of stress and adrenaline, and that could cause a myriad of different problems. So, number 1 is, if you have a high stressful life or a high stressful job, or both, probably not a good idea for you to be fasting. Okay, so reason number 2, this is going to be for someone that wants maximum muscle growth, okay? Yes, you can build muscle on 1 or 2 meals a day. You can actually probably go every other day, do like total days of fasting where you don't lose any real muscle mass. There's a difference between not losing muscle mass and actually being in a state of total animalism, okay? And supporting that muscle growth to the maximum amount, okay? So if you're somebody who is strength training several times a week and really putting deep inroads into your muscle and breaking that muscle down, your body doesn't store protein. And I know that you can get into the science and people will say, yes, you can recycle proteins and all that, and that may be true. But let me tell you something. Like I've mentioned many times before, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've done fasting 16 years ago before it was popular, and people actually knew what it was. And did I shrink up and turn into a skeleton? No. But I will tell you, I've also done the even eating cadences, and it definitely 100% lend itself to maximum muscle, especially if you're natural. And I am a natural weightlifting enthusiast. I don't call myself an athlete. I think that's another video by those calling themselves athletes. But maximum muscle is going to be achieved, in my opinion, by even feeding cadence, especially making sure that you have enough amino acids, every 3 to probably 4, especially if you have a fast metabolism, but 3 to 5 hours seems about best. And then make sure it ensures that you have enough leucine, especially if you're getting like 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal, and that's going to be the environment where you get maximum muscle. Remember, the word is maximum. So this is for somebody that wants to be as muscular as possible naturally, on top of all the stressors in life and stuff like that. So reason number 2 is going to be even cadences to support maximum muscle growth. Okay, reason number 3 is going to be someone with a slow metabolic rate or thyroid. They go hand in hand, right? So I've seen and read a lot of different opinions on this. And again, I don't get deep into science. In fact, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. I'm just a personal trainer. But what matters most to me is the results. And you can try anything, and you can give me a bunch of stacks of paper with all different stats and studies and evidence, but if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. And I've worked with thousands of people, and I will tell you this, when they fast, they definitely show signs of metabolic slowdown. And we talked about that we touched on that in the fasting for quarantine video, and some of these things are going to definitely be cold extremities, and that reason why is when you have a stressful response, you tend to, the blood flow to the extremities, nose, hands, feet, tends to get cut off. Why? I don't know, but it does. Okay, you'll see some women, their hair, they'll start to see more hair, and this can happen to men too. So if you're in the market for being bald, then maybe you want to fast if you already have a slow metabolism or thyroid issue. But if you don't want to lose your hair, probably not a good idea. And a lot of people that fast, they will see their hair, more hair in the drain of the shower. They'll also see constipation, lack of sleep, or deep REM sleep. And these are just a few of the many things that we see when somebody has a reduced thyroid. Cold, that's another huge one. Somebody who's cold all the time when no one else is cold. And it's, 75 degrees out and you're cold. That's a great sign that you have a slow thyroid. And it doesn't mean that you have a thyroid problem. There's a thing called hibernation syndrome. And basically it's a thyroid issue that you're giving yourself because you're not giving yourself enough nutrition. And your body is smart. And that's why we see the lack of bowel movements, or these little tiny baby-like bowel movements, or like a little dog, because your body is smarter than you. And it doesn't want to starve to death. It doesn't want to die. Your body's job is to keep alive. So when you have less food coming in, okay, because if you're fasting, whether you realize or not, you're probably, unless you're one of these people that fast and eat pizza and ice cream at nighttime, which is obviously not a great idea, but if you're fasting, you're cutting food back. And then if you've got fitness on your mind and you want to lose weight, you're probably exercising too. So now you have two different deficits coming in. You have a deficit coming in through your mouth, and you have a deficit coming through your feet, an activity. And your body will take that for a little bit of time, but then it will slow everything down so you don't waste away. And what does that look like? It looks like slow digestion, heartburn, again, the cold extremities, this inability to get into a deep restful sleep. Why? Why can't you get into the deep restful sleep? Because your body is so jacked up with adrenaline because it's starving and it can't get into that restful sleep, which is one of the most important things that you need to take care of when it comes to fat burning and life extension. The very thing that people are fasting for, life extension and a better body composition, but now they can't sleep. So do you see how this is like, I always say it's like a crazy dog that chases its tail. If you've ever seen that dog that spins around in circles chasing its tail, it's got problems, it's got issues. And so often we see this behavior in the fitness industry, and it's no fault to the consumer because they're just doing what they're told. But I gotta tell you something, I believe wholeheartedly that there's a lot of people and companies that don't want you to be in shape because then you really don't have a need for them anymore. So if you have a slow metabolism, if you have a slow thyroid, it's my opinion that you will not do well on fasting, you'll actually do far worse. Okay, reason number 4 is going to be poor digestion. Okay, let's talk about this one because there's a little bit to unpack on this one, because you may have heard that fasting helps digestion because you don't have to digest food as much. And on the surface, that seems pretty logical, right? It's not rocket science, right? If you're not eating food and you're just sipping black coffee or water, because that's what supports black tea or green tea without any sort of calories, any sort of cream or sugar, if you're taking in no nutrition that actually has calories, you're technically in a fasted state. And if you don't have to digest food, obviously your digestion is getting a rest, especially things that are hard to digest, like animal flesh. If you're somebody that eats animal flesh, these things are hard to break down and it makes your body work, which in my opinion is not a bad thing. But here's the problem. In a 24-hour day, we have to get our food in, okay? And if you don't get enough nutrition in, it's gonna impact your muscle, your performance. If you're somebody that likes to exercise or does anything, it doesn't have to be bodybuilding, it could be somebody who's athletic and plays basketball or tennis or anything active like that. And also too, your brain needs a certain amount of nutrition, and you just need a certain amount of vitamins, minerals, protein, fats, and carbohydrates to keep alive and keep healthy. So you have to get that in. So now basically think about this, and this is why I always talk about common sense. And just because a study tells you something's going to work or it works in rats does not mean it's going to work in humans. And also, who is the human you're talking about? Are we talking about my 90-year-old grandmother that really just sits and watches TV, or we're talking about somebody that has a physical labor job, or somebody that trains with weights 6-7 times a week and has a high calorie demand? Way two different, sports car, Hyundai, Ferrari, Toyota. They take different gas, right? It's a different octane gas. The gas teams, you get the point. So now, if I am somebody like let's use myself for example, and I've talked about this before. Let's say I need 4,000 calories or 3,000 calories, because that's around where I kind of end up depending on my goal. Now I have to jam, and I talked about this in the other fasting video. Now I have to jam all that food in 1 or 2 meals, maybe 2 meals and 1 snack in this consolidated window. You want to talk about digestion distress? Okay, so I'm just asking myself to do the same amount of work. I'm just overwhelming my system. So yes, think about the stupidity, and look, it's the way I talk. You either love me or hate me, and if you're somebody that says, oh, maybe a light bulb is going off in your mind now, and you're like, shit, that's why I feel so horrible when I fast. You're not, unless you're radically, and this is going to be talked about in the people who should fast. If you're somebody who's just fasting for the eating window and the benefits and the growth hormone, yada yada nonsense, and you don't really address calorie reduction, and there's a lot of people that don't need to reduce their calories. They probably, in fact, need more calories. So now you're giving yourself all this time of rest, but now you're asking your body to do all this work and digest all this food in this short period of time. Do you see how screwed up that is? And it's all bullshit trickery. It's just nonsense. Because if you work for me and you get $1 a day, does it matter if I give you a quarter in the morning, a quarter at lunchtime, a quarter in the mid-afternoon snack, and then at the end of the workday? Or could I just give you the $1 at the end of the day? It's just $1. So if you're somebody that has slow digestion or digestive issues, I don't think it's a great idea to jam-pack a bunch of nutrition in a optimal window, bro. Reason number 5 is going to be quality sleep. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, and I think it was reason number 3, but it deserves its own reason. Sleep is a very, very important part of I call it the fitness wheel, okay? And God knows it's the one thing that I really struggle on. So I've become somewhat of a Google expert on getting quality sleep, from supplementation, lifestyle, eating habits, you name it, blue light glasses, the list goes on, because it's something that I've always kind of struggled, and I've had times in my life where it's really, really bad, and then I have times where it's not so bad. So I don't think it's ever phenomenal for me, and it stinks, and that's why I've always got these black circles under my eyes. But you definitely want to get the best sleep possible. And this will take a piece out of reason number 3 and a piece of reason number 4 and kind of mix it all together. When you go to sleep, there's 4 different cycles of sleep. The second cycle, they all have their important reasons, or they all do important things, I should say. But stage number 2 is really important, and that's going to be REM sleep, right? And rapid eye movement. And from everything I've read, this is the point where your body releases the most growth hormone, and obviously growth hormone is one of the reasons why we're fasting, right? When people do fast, because supposedly it's supposed to increase growth hormone. So when your body is under a large nutrition load, insulin goes up, okay? And if insulin is really high, your body cannot produce a lot of growth hormone. It also will have a tough time getting into that deep REM cycle because it's digesting food. So most fasting protocols are going to have you not eating in the morning. Sometimes they have you not even eating lunch, and then a lot of times people will they will try to position their workouts at the end of their fast, and then they'll eat. So this is going to lend its hand to people eating large amounts of meals later in the evening. So let's say you have somebody who wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning, they might not be eating until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they have that big meal, and a lot of times people have a snack, and then they'll go home for a regular dinner with their family. Now, let's say they have 3,000 calories they need to take in, and they ate 1,000 calories after their workout. Now they have to eat 2,000 calories for dinner. That is a gigantic dinner, okay? And that is going to, especially if it's got protein, complete animal protein, which a lot of exercise enthusiasts do, and vegans, they're going to get their protein from things like beans and tofu and that stuff, although it's not as hard to digest as animal flesh. It's loaded with fiber, and that slows down digestion, which is a really good thing. Fiber is a good thing. I'm somebody that actually thinks that fiber is a good thing, because now another trend in the world is that we don't need fiber, and I don't know about that. But there's some people that don't do well on a good fiber, high fiber diet. That's another video. But most of us would do good with some fiber in our diet. So whether you're a vegan and a vegetarian and you're having really high fibrous protein sources, because that's what you have to do, or you're somebody who's eating large amounts of animal flesh, that's got its challenges, because that's really hard to break down. So if you have this big, huge meal at nighttime, it can take you up to 7 hours to fully digest and assimilate that food. So you can bet your bottom dollar that you're not going to be able to get into this deep sleep and digest 2,000, 15, whatever your dinner looks like. It's just not going to happen, okay? And we'll touch on the digestion issue. So if you're bloated and you're gassy, because especially if you're a vegan and vegetarian, we all know the power of beans and lentils and all those things. So if you're all bloated and gassy, that's going to impact your sleep as well. So you can see how really fast sleep can really get impacted by fasting, because the calories got to come in somewhere. I think we've got to talk about quality of life. And I'll tell you, look, my wife's not going to like that I talk about this, but I've done fasting. I've done fasting way before anybody knew about it, and it really impacted my sex life. And, try to have sex with 2,000 calories or 1,500 calories in your stomach. It's not fun. You're not going to, break any hearts. You're not going to wow anybody. So, whether it's, most of us will have sex at night. And, look, and people will laugh at this and be like, Mike, we want to bring up with clients, but sex is a very important thing just for longevity and health for a man. It increases your testosterone. And studies have shown that it doesn't increase testosterone like masturbation does. You gotta do the real thing. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get in there. So, there's another reason. My son's on the other side of this camera and he's laughing right now, but sorry, hey, this is the way nature works. But if you want to screw up your sleep and your sex life, eat a gigantic dinner, and this is what fasting has people doing. So, you really got to pick what hills you want to die on. And I don't want to die on the bad sex hill and the bad sleep hill, you know? So, guys, this is going to wrap it up for this one. And there's a couple other reasons. Maybe we'll do another video on this for more reasons why people shouldn't fast. And again, fasting, you know, all the people that fast, because I know it's like a religion for some people, we're going to do a video on who I think should fast and what the benefits are, because there's some major benefits that come along with fasting. So these were 5 reasons, no particular order of importance, although I think the sleep thing is really important. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, comments, put them below. And please don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell notification, because that lets you know when we do a video. We're going to be doing a video every Tuesday and Thursday. And that's it. Follow me on Instagram if you already have them, because I do some cool stories there and do some posting you won't see here, obviously. And hopefully these videos are helping you. And just to reiterate, we're going to be doing stuff on nutrition, training, we're going to talk about personal training, mindset, all the things that will make you a better version of what you are now, both physically and mentally. From a guy that's been doing it for 25 years, helping people just like yourself. So 5 reasons why somebody with these situations should not be fasting. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see you in the next video.